I asked what you want my next theme week to be, and the votes have all been tallied, and it's time to kick off Crossover Week! Yes, an entire week dedicated to crossovers in games, comics, and more, and we're starting it all off with this, my top 10 favorite video game crossovers. Now, crossovers in video games might not always have the deepest stories or even make any sense, but that's kind of the beauty of them. They're just pure fun, so let's have fun with this top 10. Now, before we begin, a quick clarification. To me, crossovers mean the meeting of two or more separate properties, meaning that even if the series came from the same developers or were even part of the same franchise, as long as they still existed in their own worlds and had their own stories that never interacted before, I still count as a crossover. At number 10, the Namco Cross Capcom series. Namco Cross Capcom and its follow-up, Project Crosszone, was a tactical RPG which was not how I expected these two franchises to finally meet, but it was fun and creative. But even if it wasn't, I would still put it on this list just simply for the massive, overwhelming number of characters alone. Seriously, it's crazy how many characters from so many different franchises they fit into this game. I don't even know who half these people are, but I don't care, that looks awesome! Plus, I'm not gonna lie, I will take any excuse I can get to play this theme song. Just listen to this thing. Oh, I'm gonna be pumped for the rest of the day. Number 9, Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright. What do you get when you combine two great addictive puzzle games? Well, another great addictive puzzle game. That's a fairly simple answer. If you've ever played both of these individual franchises, then you know that while their gameplay mechanics might be different, they both satisfy that same need for addictive puzzles, and Nintendo and Capcom did a great job merging these different playstyles in order to make a game that satisfied fans of both franchises. And that's honestly the other reason why it's on this list. Because ever since both games hit the portable Nintendo scene, fans of these two franchises wanted to see them cross over. So I have to give this a spot simply because how often do big video game corporations listen to the fans and give them exactly what they want? Number 8, Final Fantasy Dissidia. Speaking of things fans wanted, the idea of all the Final Fantasy characters crossing over was one of those things that fans of the series wanted, but they knew in their hearts would never happen. That is until it did. If you're a geek like me, then at some point in time you've asked yourself, hey, I wonder who would win in a fight between these two characters, or what would happen if these two characters finally met. And this game allowed us to see not only some of our favorite Final Fantasy heroes go up against each other, but many of the villains too, with some great combinations and character moments. Not to mention, finding a way to mimic the superpowered fighting of the films and the cutscenes really drove this game home. Only reason it's not higher is because in order to play this, you had to have a PlayStation Portable, and come on, Sony. That's just unfair. Number 7.
I'd hoped our final contestant would be here by now, but it appears that we'll be one short tonight.
Deal me in.
Poker Night at the Inventory. So far, we've seen crossovers on this list that fans have been asking for, but this series gave us crossovers we've never even thought of. A poker game between Max, the Heavy, Tycho, and Strongbad? That's crazy, but also amazing. How could that get better? Oh, I know, if the sequel had Sam, Brock Samson, Claptrap, and Ashley Williams from the Evil Dead series with GLaDOS as the dealer? Not only is this a pretty decent poker game, but the interactions in this game were written so sharp and were so fun, I didn't even care if I won. I just wanted to listen to the banter.
How do you do anything, even remotely interesting with hands like that?
You mean besides punching your groin face into face groin?
Number 6, Soul Calibur. When you think of crossover games, Soul Calibur might not be the first one that comes to mind, but ever since the start of this series, they've had guest stars from other games, whether it be Yoshimitsu from Tekken, Link from Legend of Zelda, or even Spawn from... Spawn!
I'm sick of this.
With all these guest stars, this is a game that isn't just about souls and swords and destinies and whatever other noun the announcer wants to throw out there. It's also about just throwing some crazy competitors in there. And I give them credit for their crossovers because in a game that's loaded with overly dramatic stories, they don't try to bog you down with complex reasons about why these crossovers are happening. They realize it's just for fun. I mean, seriously, do you care why Darth Vader is fighting Nightmare? No, but it's awesome. Number 5. King of Fighters. King of Fighters might just be the most successful crossover series in gaming history. So successful that many people don't even know it's a crossover game to begin with. But this game started off as one big crossover between the franchises of Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, and Samurai Showdown. With all these characters, not only does King of Fighters sport a huge roster, but also quick and well-balanced combat. But it's also important to note that King of Fighters is still going, while Art of Fighting and Fatal Fury haven't been heard from in ages, meaning this crossover was so popular it basically took the place of the games it was spawned from. You know you have staying power when you outlast your creators. At number 4, Street Fighter Cross Mega Man? Don't count this out just because it's a fan-made game. Heck, most crossovers are at the request of the fans themselves, so it's only natural that eventually one plucky young gamer would take matters into their own hands. This game wasn't just a fun, crazy idea, it was also a legitimately well-made Mega Man game, with every level fully designed to mimic the themes of the fighters waiting for you at the end, each of whom perfectly interpreted their fighting moves into the Mega Man format. Also, I'm giving this some points simply because it's a Mega Man game, and you know how much people love Mega Man. You hear that, Capcom? Number 3, Kingdom Hearts. Another entry in the list of crossovers that you never thought would be a thing. Final Fantasy characters and Disney characters coming together in a video game was a sentence I never thought I'd say. How on earth were you going to merge not just some of the Disney characters with some of the Final Fantasy characters, but all of them? Everything from Tarzan to Tron, Mickey to Maleficent, these characters alone coming together seemed unlikely, but now you throw Cloud and Sephiroth and Squall into the mix? Suddenly this becomes something completely different. But this game gets this high because they made it work. They were able to take the long, epic, mind-bending stories of a Final Fantasy game and add the heart-touching story of a Disney film as well as goofy characters such as, well, Goofy, and it all meshed together very well. Only reason it's not any higher is because, well, hey, I'm not gonna lie, there have been so many side games with prequels, midquels, and side stories, and it's next to impossible to know what's happening now, but still, that doesn't mean I'm any less excited for Kingdom Hearts 3. Alright, down to the final 2, and it's time to... Because at number 2, it's Marvel vs. Capcom. I've been saying it all throughout this countdown, but to me, crossovers are mostly made as fan service. They're about making all those crazy dreams in your fans' heads come to life, and seeing dozens of Marvel characters going up against fighters from countless Capcom games was amazing. It created a game that was fast-paced with detailed mechanics, but beyond that, you can tell that these games were made by true fans, by people who knew these characters and loved them, and thought deep and hard about how every single one of these characters would actually fight in this game. Especially Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. There were so many in-jokes in the dialogue and guest cameos in the closing cinematics that everyone from the most casual fans to the true diehards exploded with joy when they heard some of these.
Miss Walters, your witness.
Soon the defense will rest. Her fist upon your face.
Looks like I found a new guinea pig. Interesting.
So what's this I hear about a place called Raccoon City? Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man.
Gonna rough you up like a Broadway musical.
Now, if only we could get some updates. Come on, Capcom, where's my Kamala Khan and Squirrel Girl DLC? Hashtag Kamala vs. Capcom. And at number 1, Super Smash Bros. When Super Smash Bros. Popped onto the scene, it was one of the first games to really break down the walls of a major franchise and create a fun game where you got to see your favorite Nintendo characters go head to head with each other. But they didn't stop there. With each version of the game, they went bigger, adding more big-name characters, obscure characters, items, Pokemon, assist trophies, interactive stages, boss fights, a story mode that let you see each of these characters interact, even going beyond Nintendo and adding characters from Metal Gear, Street Fighter, Mega Man, and finally letting us see Sonic and Mario square off. This game franchise is no longer just a crossover, it's almost like the entire world of video games shoved into one. Any character could show up as DLC and I wouldn't be surprised, although I am kinda hoping for Shovel Knight. Hashtag Shovel Knight for Smash. And because of this, Super Smash Bros. To me is the greatest crossover in gaming. Thanks for watching everyone, and let me know what your favorite crossover in gaming is below. And if you want to see more from me, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button, because remember, this whole week is crossover week, which means I've got plenty more countdowns and more on the way, so stay tuned.